All throughout history, art has been used to document what has been going on in the world during that time. We are living in a time that has never been seen before, where many of us don't leave the house. You imagine what is out there, out in the world, beyond that closed door? And we're going to be looking at space and how artists use different techniques to develop space in their paintings. Space can be used two ways. It can be used as positive and negative space, where the positive space is what the person is, what the subject matter of your paint picture is. The negative space then would be all the space around your main subject of your picture. They also use space to create depth, where you could actually walk into the painting or the picture. We're going to create, so the second, we're going to be creating depth by creating a keyhole, and I'm going to explain to you, for those of you who have never really taken or thought about a keyhole or taken a look at a keyhole, we're going to look at some keys. I'm going to be showing you how to draw your keyhole. It is up to you then to imagine what kind of a world is on the other side of that keyhole. It doesn't need to be realistic. You can create a fantasy world out there. You open the door to a kind of like a portal, and what are you finding beyond that closed door on the other side of that keyhole? You know, something that you really look forward to once we are able to leave your house. Maybe it's a beach, maybe it's a cityscape where you see the lights on the buildings, on the tall buildings. Maybe that's something that you're missing seeing right now. It could be a fantasy world where you have, you know, the little mushroom houses and you've got gnomes walking around out there. That's up to your imagination. I'm just going to help you get the form of the keyhole itself, and you need to make sure it's large enough on your paper that you can fit that tiny world looking through your keyhole. All right, let's get started. I'm going to show you some examples of some keys and some keyholes.
Our modern day keys are not as fancy looking as the old time keys that looked something like this, where you've got one end, it's got the flourishy, pretty aspect, and the other end is the key that will actually fit into the lock and unlock the door. Here's an illustration showing you the key going into the keyhole and turning to unlock the door. And here's an example of a keyhole, something similar to what you will be creating.
All right, I'm going to show you how to draw a keyhole, and then it's going to be up to you what you put on the other side of that keyhole. Look around your house for something that has a perfect, beautiful circle, rather large, because you want to have a large space that you can draw inside of. And you'll also need a ruler or something to draw a straight edge. So if you have a compass, you can use a compass for the circle, but I found this bowl that I think is the size that I want. It'll sit pretty largely on my paper, so I'll have plenty of space to draw what's inside of my keyhole. So I'm going to go ahead and trace around the circle and draw that circle on here first. I'm not going to go all the way around because we don't need a closed circle. So, all right, there I've got my circle. That's the top part of your keyhole. And I'm going to use the ruler to draw the bottom part. I'm going to go ahead and measure it. Actually, I did not measure to make sure my circle is perfectly centered, which it looks like it's actually this way, just a little bit more than the other way. So I'm not going to center the bottom like I was planning to. I'm just gonna have to eyeball it a little bit. So I'm gonna make the bottom part, I think I'm gonna make it about 4 inches wide. So from here to here, about 4 inches wide. And again, I'm just gonna eyeball it since my circle is not perfectly centered on my paper. And I'm gonna trace that 4 inches right here. Okay. Now I'm going to make a diagonal line going from my circle to this line that I made down here to the bottom of the keyhole. Diagonal line on that side, and that diagonal line on this side. Again, you want to make sure, you want to make it pretty big because your assignment is to imagine that you're looking through this keyhole and what does the world look like on the other side of that door where this keyhole is. So we're also creating space by making depth. So the things closer to you, in this case, a keyhole, if you actually looked at a real keyhole, it's going to be very, very tiny, but it takes up a large space on our paper, which means it's closer to us. What you're seeing through that keyhole is going to be smaller because you have to make it fit inside the keyhole, which is going to make it look like it's farther in the distance, and that creates the illusion of space. Another way to add a little bit of depth here to this keyhole before you start drawing what you're looking at through the keyhole is to give it kind of that 3D quality. If you've ever drawn a cube, you draw like 2 squares and then you connect the corners to make it look like a 3-dimensional cube. I'm gonna do something similar to my keyhole so that you can see like one of the sides of the keyhole. So if I was looking at the keyhole from this direction over here, I would see a little bit of the door over here where the hole is going through. It wouldn't look just like this where you just have a random shape sitting there in the middle of nowhere. So I'm going to do that by mimicking the circle I already drew, just kind of off-centering it from what I have down there. And again, I'm going to trace it like this. Okay. So it kind of looks like the moon, a little moon right here. And then I'm going to take my ruler again and I'm going to draw about that same width going down. We're only going to do this on one side because it's like you're looking at it from this side, so you're just going to see this part. Okay, so then I'm going to erase this line here. Now I'm going to connect this corner to this corner like this, and that gives it that crisp look. Oops, let me put it this way. The crisp look of an actual corner like this. Okay. So now it kind of gives a little 3D quality as if you're actually looking through. I wouldn't do it with any more sides.
I want to see your interpretation on what is on the other side of the keyhole, but here are some examples. For instance, this one is looking through the keyhole at a bedroom. Notice how artists create space by the objects that are farther from the front appear smaller. Here's a scene outside that is like a mountain, a nighttime scene. Here's just kind of a crazy, creative, wacky little world that you could do. And this is almost like Alice in Wonderland, you know, the rabbit with the stopwatch. So be creative, add color if you have color. I can't wait to see what you come up with.